Yeah. Hi Michael, we just thought today for all our clients of Jigsaw Tax it'd be a really good opportunity to go through a little bit of information about motor vehicles and fringe benefits. And seeing as you are the guru on cars and fringe benefits, I thought it'd be a great chance for us to interview you. So
Good, yeah.
Michael, first of all, can I just get you to explain to us why you might have a fringe benefit on a motor vehicle?
So a fringe benefit arises essentially when you have a personal asset in the company. In this case, it's usually a car that's owned or paid for by a company. The ATO usually sees cars as being fairly personal assets. We'll talk about utes in a second. But regardless, there are actually some still really good tax concessions available for essentially cars that are 100% private use.
Okay, so can you explain to us how they value the benefit from a fringe benefits point of view?
Okay, so a standard car, you've got the easy way, or the logbook way, which is the operating cost. Now, we see a lot of sales reps have this. High business kilometres, low personal kilometres, actually a really good way of valuing it. Essentially, you add up all your expenses over the year, depreciation, interest, and a few other bits and pieces, and the percentage that's personal, essentially the ATO will say, well, that's subject to fringe benefits tax. But the one that most people use, who don't have any business usage, is the 20% statutory rate method. The easiest way to describe that is the first 20% of your car value is non-deductible. So if you buy a $20,000 car, 20% of $20,000 is $4,000. The first $4,000 every year isn't tax deductible, and then after that you can claim a tax deduction for everything. So like rego, insurance, that's alone $3,000. You add in your fuel, your depreciation, or your lease payments, your interest, through a few logbook services, it actually adds up quite quickly to be a very good little benefit.
Okay, so if I do want to keep a logbook, I'm just wondering how long I have to keep a logbook for.
I don't know.
I think I do. It's 12 weeks.
Oh, that one. Oh, I thought you meant record keeping. So I couldn't remember if it was 4 or 7 weeks. Yes, you are right. So the logbook method requires you to run a logbook for 12 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there's some great apps out there that will really help you with that.
Yeah.
You only need to do the opening, closing odometer readings and all your business use trips. You don't have to worry about going to the shops or childcare or going away on holidays. They just want to know what your business trips are to get that percentage.
I'm guessing that just assumes that's private use.
Yeah. So if you don't have a record, it's private use.
So my understanding is that logbook will count for 5 years. Is that correct?
Yep.
Is there any reason why you'd have to do a new one?
So there are a few reasons, and I've seen that being at the tax office as an auditor previously. What's called the material change in usage. So if you were working for a company, say Mascot, and driving 30 k's a day, but then you start living down the road from say Norwest, chances are you're going to have to do a new logbook, or you've quit the job. That's a good one to have. Interestingly enough, if you change cars, that logbook is still good as long as your rough usage pattern is the same. So that's the time where you would actually have to get, or you wouldn't have to actually have a logbook at that point.
Okay, great. Now, my understanding is, Michael, because I'm not really a very big car person, like if you ask me about a car, I want to know what colour it is. But as a guy who's really into his cars, my understanding is a ute may not be considered a car. Can you please explain?
That's right. I love my ute. I've got an Amarok. Some say it's because it's a nice car, others say because it's a tax write-off. A bit of both in that circumstance, and Joe and I have that same car.
I actually have a ute too.
We have matching utes. So previously the ATO has said that utes and trucks of that sort were for business use. No one really wanted to drive around in an old Triton ute. No offence to anyone who's got a Triton ute, but they weren't the most comfortable cars around. Today on the market we've got a $90,000 Mercedes-Benz ute. We've got an $87,000 Amarok V6 Ultimate ute. We're talking, these are luxury cars that just are amazing to drive. So whether the ATO will change its ruling, we don't know. But at this point right now, a ute is regarded separately to cars, and it's actually called a non-car. The valuation method is different specifically for utes. They are actually exempt from fringe benefits if certain requirements are met, which I'll discuss in a few minutes.
Okay, so, well, can you define what a ute is?
Okay, so let's start with, do you have a ute that can use these concessions? Easiest one is, does it have a carrying capacity over 1 tonne as advertised? It's very important that it's as advertised, because that will give you straight away the ute exemption. The other option is, especially for dual cabs that don't have over 1 tonne, is there is a calculator on the ATO that uses average weights of people, which I think is at 63 kilos, which you can tell I'm not 63 kilos, but the ATO regards me as being 63 kilos. Good on them. Which will then allow most dual cabs to be counted as a ute.
Okay, so if a ute is not a car, does that mean we have no fringe benefits from having a ute?
Not quite. The outcome can be actually quite bad if it's not a car.
Okay.
So.
Please explain.
Yeah. So let's start with the first one, which is most tradies drive around in utes. And that's fine because they are a ute. We don't need to keep a logbook in that. And then if they get parked back at the base, that's fine because there's really no personal usage about that. And that's what the ATO is trying to capture. But a lot of us small business owners, we have utes as well. So the rule is you can have incidental usage. While the ATO says the law says it's to and from the tip only, essentially. The ATO says that as a guidance, they won't look at anyone who drives less than 700 kilometres per year and no trip of more than 200 kilometres in one time is personal. So from Canberra to Bateman's Bay and back is more than 200 kilometres, so you're not going to be able to fall into that. It can be used to and from work, which I'll discuss a bit later, and you also need an FBT declaration that says that you didn't use it for personal usage. The flip side is if you don't have those things in place and you are driving it to the shops, to the holiday for forward driving, the tax is actually really bad and it's worse than the car method.
Okay, so how do we calculate that then, Michael?
So there's 2 options. So basically it doesn't fall in as a car, so you don't get that 20% stat rate method. Actually, sorry, you will get it in most circumstances, but some utes, base model Ranger, base model Amarok, and I think even a D-Max won't be able to use the 20% stat rate method.
So what you're saying is you may be able to just determine whether it's a ute or a car?
Yeah, that's right. So there are options to treat it, but if not, and you don't fall into that, it's 65 cents per kilometre travelled in the year. If you don't have a logbook, you will need to actually pay that. So take 25,000 kilometres, which is what most of us do. At 65 cents, you're going to be paying $16,250 worth of benefit, which is about $4,500 in extra tax payable and probably not worth it.
So with the logbook, I think you were sort of indicating to me at some point in time that the logbook for a ute needs to be more than 12 weeks. Is
that is correct. So a big issue is that you actually have to keep a logbook for every trip all year round. So a car gets that 12-week rule. A ute is regarded as not a car, so that 12-week rule only applies to cars. You've got to keep one for the whole year, which can be a pain. I've got a good friend in Sydney who started a business, logbook.me, which is an ATO approved app that actually you plug into your port in your car, and it will actually measure your kilometres and trips. And it's connected to Wi-Fi, so when you get home, you'll actually get a printout of every trip that you do, and then you can go through and tick off which ones are business and which ones are personal. And it just sits there plugged in 24/7, which is actually a really good idea.
That's a great idea.
Yeah.
I think we might have to put a link to that little app
on
our website. Now, big question that I often get asked. So if I put a few stickers on my car, does that mean my car is now 100% deductible?
I get that question a lot. I love stickers, but in this case, stickers do not actually change anything to do with the tax law. The tax law is very clear about that. It is not a form of advertising. The only time it will be counted as an advertising car is if it's a purpose-built billboard truck, which we can see driving around town at the moment with various Liberal and Labor ads before the election.
So they're getting a tax deduction, basically.
They'll get a tax deduction, but you know, if you put a picture of your local MP, it's not going to fly either.
Okay, so now Michael, in your previous life before Jigsaw, we know you were working in the ATO as an auditor, and I'm sure you had a few FBT cases in your time. So is there anything you'd like to just point out as some little special tips that you might know?
So one of the things we used to do is do a logbook check. Really easy to pick apart a fake logbook. We can spot them from a mile away. We either check the receipts, and if you said that you went to one part of town and I find a receipt from another city, chances are your logbook's going to be knocked out straight away. We've seen some really good fake logbooks with coffee stains, with dirt rubbed into the pages, with the front covers ripped off so we couldn't figure out which date it was, not realising that there's actually code on every page, which is like a size 2 font that actually tells us the date code of when that page was printed. We've had logbooks that were printed, the actual document was printed in, say, April 2014, yet the trips that were signed off on the logbook were in 2012. Amazing that they already had logbooks before they were even printed. So that's one. There has been reports of ATO actually going down to the MCG and footy games and actually checking tradies' utes, going back home with their rego plates and actually going to see whether they've remitted fringe benefits tax, and if not, a please explain letter how you going to the footy on a Sunday afternoon was a tax deduction for you. And then I know we've used this before when we're in the audit, is social media. Those forward drive trips that you sort of go and churn up the mud a bit, they are definitely not business use trips. And again, a bit of a please explain.
So you can love your ute, but you don't want to take pictures of it, basically, and put them on social media. All right, so just before we finish, is there any other little tricks you want to share with us?
Yeah, so a lot of office workers are now moving to, and a lot of business owners are now moving to getting utes. And I'm a perfect example. I have a ute specifically to drive to and from work. It is the Jigsaw ute.
And see clients, of course.
And see clients, of course. Yeah, I'll pop out and see them. I've got my other four-wheel drive at home, which is actually there for personal duties. It's got all the good stuff in it. But this means that I don't actually have to run a logbook because I only use it to and from work. You won't see me out and about on the beach. I'll be in the other four-wheel drive. We have other clients now that use a ute specifically to commute to and from work. Especially if you live out of town, you might have a 30-kilometre commute each morning or each day, so 60k round trip. It's a really good little tip to have, even an old ute, to be able to claim that exemption from fringe benefits tax.
So my understanding is that if you have a trip from home to work, that's personal use.
Yeah, so ordinarily, when you have a motor vehicle, yes, it would be, but there is a special carve out for non-cars, for utes, that allows you to go, no, that's a business use because that's to and from work. So we'll see how long that stays around with your $90,000 utes, but at this point it's in the law and I haven't heard any changes coming.
Well, thanks very much, Michael. I hope that's helped everyone. It certainly helped me understand the situation a little more, and I'm sure if anyone has any questions, feel free to ask us. We're always here to help you.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you. See you later.